Okay, so the live stream's also started. So I do the intro. Hello and welcome to Genesis Live at 4 p.m. Every day at 4 p.m., we have live shows exclusively for the 60 plus to tune in and actively join buzzing conversations around special interests from movies to live comedy, health and fitness, and much more. Genesis Life is an online and offline platform designed for the needs of today's 60 plus, made by the 60 plus. For all those who are watching the live stream on our YouTube channel, Genesis Life Official, you can actively join and participate in the live sessions on the Genesis Life app. To do so, you must be 60 plus. You can download and subscribe to Genesis Life on app or Play Store, and you can also access the app on a web browser. Log on to genes.live for more info. You can also gift it to your 60 plus friends and family members. You can also WhatsApp us on 882-881-6060 with any questions, comments, and content. I am going to drop a bit of information in the chat box right here, just so that you have the links to download the app and so on. And now I pass this on to Gauri to start the third episode of Dil Ki Baatein. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Shaq. Hi, good evening, everybody. Quick, before we go into this week's question, just a quick recap at some of the things we've so far that have come up here, the kind of questions people are sending in. Two questions that we did tackle was about about Vikram, the person who was considering a new relationship after he had got widowed 5 or 6 years ago, and that he was having some kind of communication and acceptance problem from his grown children. We had talked about that. The other one we had done was with Janaki, the retired bureaucrat, who was a little perturbed about being kind of policed by her grown daughter for not reading the right things, for not reading the right people, meeting the right people, for not using her time fruitfully. A lot of shoulds. We saw a lot of shoulds that were coming up, and we talked about how she could deal with this. And that's why sometimes I feel it's important that people under 60 attend these things too, because they, it cuts both ways, kind of. So today's question, is the theme is grieving at the passing of your spouse or significant other, grieving how much and for how long you again should grieve. The should comes there again. Who decides? Who decides the quantum and the quality of grieving and of moving on? Words that are, used quite casually by people around us, while the person who's going through it is not terribly sure whether, I think Purane Zamane mein what happened was that you had a prescribed time, behavior, what you ate, what you didn't eat, whether you went out, you didn't go out. It was prescriptive. It was prescribed in different cultures, in different religions. Now we live a more in modern times. It is left quite largely to us, which makes things sometimes a bit jagged and difficult because there's no prescribed time. And you may feel sometimes I'll read you the letter that somebody has sent. You may feel unsure of whether you're moving at a pace that you should or you shouldn't. So let's look at Madhulika's question. Madhulika has sent in a question. She says, my husband passed away 8 months ago at age 77. Our marriage had some ups and downs, and there were some really bad times, but we stuck it out and things got easier as we got older. He and I had a few years ago discussed various scenarios and options about when one of us would be left alone without the other. We had discussed this, she says. After the mourning period, after the children returned to their lives, I began to do the paperwork for our house, for our financials, and other matters. This was necessary as it also took my mind away from his absence. Once some of these things were settled, I did feel lost and lonely, but began to join in some activities. And now I'm planning to go on a vacation with a tour company where I do not know anyone. This looks like she's deliberately planned it to to sort of maybe throw herself into a completely new situation. So she's going on a holiday with a tour company where she doesn't know any of the other travelers. She says, I feel this will be a good thing. However, I get the feeling from even some close people's reaction that I am moving on too fast. Now, these inverted commas she has put. No one is openly criticizing me or stopping me, but there is some surprise I can see. Ma'am, I feel I should explain to them, but then I feel I do not owe anyone any explanations. What do you suggest? This is Madhulika C. has sent us this letter. First of all, I must congratulate anyone who has already discussed life after one of the spouses. It's a mature thing to do, to contemplate your future without the other. And to, if you have the relationship with the person, to be able to talk about it when you're both quite okay, but looking at your own mortality, maybe looking at your last couple of decades at the most, it is sensible. It's a very good starting point that you've had some clarity about what both people's thoughts are on this. I'm sure many of you know people who refuse to engage. मेरे बाद में क्या? They just refuse to engage in that conversation, and they get very insulted if anybody thinks that it should be spoken. So first of all, I think this is a in Madhulika's favor, is that she's had that conversation, and that's a very very enlightening and enabling thing to have had the conversation already. So this is something I would tick mark as something that, just like people say you must do your will, you must have you don't have to sit grimly and paint scenarios, but it must be up there in the air. What's going to happen when one of you is alone? What is both your game plan? The other thing is that how your relationship was with that person, the one who has passed away. How that, broadly, what were the contours of that relationship? And what being without that person now means is a deeply personal space, deeply personal piece of information, which also informs you about how you will move ahead. And yes, you do not owe an explanation of that to anyone, not even your own children, So to answer her first question, is that what do you suggest? Firstly, to have faith in your own, that the pace that at which you are moving on is not something that has to be held against any kind of any kind of slide rule or any kind of ruler measurement. Who decides the amount and the duration of mourning is, as I said, no more a very hard and fast prescribed thing in most communities. Maybe in some communities, in some class of people, it is. And yet, inside that also, the person who's going through still has the autonomy to even at least internally process and move on at his or her own pace. And the point is that the thing is that whether or not we are moving ahead at a pace that people expect, it does not take away from the fact that you're grieving. You may dress well, you may attend some functions soon after. Does that, the exterior, and what I'm trying to say is the exterior is not a clear indication of what the interior of that person is going through. And I think all of us must learn to give that kind of, rope as well as dignity to anybody who's processing grief. It makes no sense to take only the externals as a sign of whether the person is moving on, or whether they need a gentle push to move on, or whether they are moving on too fast for your liking. All those things are, I think, really not anyone's business. To not put a very, not be very delicate about it. It's not anybody's business, really speaking. So one of the things I think is to take a good hard look at who your enablers and disablers are when you're going through this process. There may be even close-ish friends who will be not not terribly supportive, or who are watching. You don't need to be watched. You don't need to be watched. It is not a lecture demonstration on grieving that you are putting out. It is your own process. So I'm using the word enablers and disablers. There are friends who will um, take cues from you. That is an enabler, a good enabler who's taking cues from you. Acha, you feel we should do a girls' lunch out? 6 friends? Let's go. Enabler. They're taking cues from you. Are you feeling up to doing this? Do it. You planning to go on a holiday without anybody you know? Do it. See how it goes. The disablers are ones who will, outright criticize you, or even insidiously ask you questions which make you feel, oh my, am I not doing this the right way? Who will insidiously introduce the shoulds and shouldn'ts in the equation. So you have the right to express your grief, but you also have the right not to share your grief. And I think it takes mature friends and family to realize that everything that you are doing is not, everything that they see is not demonstrative of everything that you feel. And you should know that you are free to live in two possibly different areas of, today I'm not feeling like getting out of bed. I'm not. Today I really miss that presence besides me. But I will get out and I will do what I need to do. I may even put on lipstick and a nice sari and, go and visit my daughter or whatever it is. But does that morning, that early waking up and that wondering whether today is not going to be such a great day, you don't have to, I feel, exhibit or signal it to anybody. It's for you and your grieving process. Let's quickly, I want to, before we throw it open to for discussion here, let's quickly, maybe some of you have heard this thing, which is the 5 stages of grief, the 5 stages. Maybe you've read about it. Let's look at these. And why I want to quickly go through them is to, again, say to you and say to Madhulika and anybody in that situation, that these stages are not cut into rock, and it is not, okay, ये एक level हो गया, अभी वो उसको पीछे रख दिया, दूसरा level पीछे. No, you may go up and down the scale a little bit, off and on. You may think that one stage is completely over, but something may get you to go back to that other stage. So let me just quickly look. The 5 stages of grief: denial, which is a refusal to sort of believe that it has happened, that it has happened. And in denial, there's also sometimes some degree of confusion. How could this have happened? How could? I was not prepared. Even if it's somebody who's been ill, a spouse who's been ill, where you have had all the intimations that, the end is near, even then. And if it's a unexpected and sudden thing, of course, more so, sort of denial. The next stage 2, is anger, which is wanting to find someone or something to blame. And that anger can be sometimes even directed towards the person who has passed away. But chhod ke gaye na, how inconsiderate of you. So that is anger. Then there could be anger about feeling left alone, anger about a certain, being now in a certain strata of society, which you feel, okay, from now on, I am a widower, or from now on, I am a widow. That kind of anger and irritation with your situation. A third and very interesting state is bargaining. It's called bargaining. These stages have been outlined by Kathleen Kubler-Ross, a psychiatrist, but these are now very commonly accepted ones. So bargaining is making deals with yourself or a higher power, maybe, to try and undo the loss, or going back and reliving moments in time, wishing you could change the whole equation again, which is almost magical thinking. Bargaining, you're bargaining with the reality. And sometimes in the bargaining comes also a lot of khud ko kosna. If I had not done this, that wouldn't have happened. If I had, that kind of re-examining of the run-up towards the loss. What happened till then? It's a bargaining place. Then the fourth stage is depression. Feeling a sense of hopelessness, deep sadness, perhaps wanting to give up, perhaps going into a shell, um, wanting to be left alone many times. And the final fifth stage is acceptance, that big word, acceptance, where this is where you may come to acceptance in a resigned fashion or in a resolved fashion. You may be abhi aur kya kar sakte hai, and quite bitterly accept till there's an overlay of time, or you may accept in a more resolved fashion कि ये होना था, I was prepared for this, it's happened, I'm feeling sad, but I will be okay. That is the acceptance. You understand you can't change it, and instead learn to live with it, and then start to plan a future for yourself. That is the end point of this acceptance phase. That is the point from where you begin to re-engage with your life with the new equations. Now, as I was saying, what rate these stages? Let me quickly repeat: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. At what stage these at what intervals these stages kick in is not at all fixed. Very important to know. Nobody can tell you कि हो गया ना 3 महीना अभी, come on, yeah, stop being in denial. No, it but you might see that in that denial phase, a little bit of that anger is also coming, and a little bit of the bargaining is also coming. So you may on one day traverse up and down these 5 steps in one day also sometimes, or in one thought. You could get stuck also at some stage, sometimes taking longer than most others do in a similar situation. You could get stuck at that stage. This is where you may want to get help, either from a trusted friend, a grown child, a spouse, a sibling, or a trained counselor, if you think that you've got a little stuck to this. And you could also sometimes not be stuck and see the signs of the next stage coming up. Go ahead and see. Ye hone wala. I can see a glimmering of this. I think I'm going closer to acceptance. Not fully. So remember, it's not a very well etched, trajectory. These 5 stages. The other thing that I would like to bring out here, not that Madhulika has spelled that out, but this is a common thing, which is, it's called survivor guilt. The spouse who remains, who survives, you may have not gone through something huge. It's not that you both were in a plane crash and one person died and you stayed alive. Not that. It's just survive, that I lived on. There is sometimes survivor guilt that one feels, of just feeling that life got snatched from this person and I still have life. There's that. There's sometimes another thing which people feel, which they feel extremely guilty about, which is relief. Sometimes there's relief because you were seeing that it was heading to a place. And usually end of days is, there are hospitalizations, there's decisions, there's suffering to be watched. So sometimes there is relief, as much for that person as for yourself. Important to not cringe at yourself and say, how can I feel relief? You live long lives with somebody. There are some things that have, with the person's exiting, some things that have, which weren't even very happy intersections of your life. Those have exited with the person. And it is perfectly jaiyaz to feel relief. I have a neighbor who sort of, what is it? It's his black joke, but he sort of jokingly says, अभी मैं prawns, घर में prawns बना सकता हूँ. His wife had a huge prawn allergy. And he just didn't make, it wasn't banned or anything, he just didn't. He says, अभी मैं prawns बना सकता हूँ. And I'm going to the market and I'm buying prawns and I'm going to make them in my house. It is absolutely fine. It's you know, I think this one thing in the grieving process, that you allow yourself that, so now I'm living some stuff on my terms. We were a unit, now I'm a single unit, and that comes with some of its own pluses, as clearly as that, you know. So don't be overwhelmed by either you know, by survivor guilt, or by that thing of okay, this life has become right now easier. Overall, it may be more difficult, but just now, day to day, it's become easier. Fine, fine, absolutely. It's important that you don't need to spell this out to anybody but yourself. And if you have somebody to spell it out to, wonderful, you know. So, uh, they say that the grieving process generally, it takes a year or longer. This is an overall thumb rule that people use. But the sense of loss can sometimes last much more beyond that. You've survived, you've moved on, you've done what you need to do, but the sense of loss can suddenly revisit you, suddenly come back to you, and you have to be prepared for that and accepting of that. That, you know, once in a while you'll open your eyes and say, "My God, he's gone. Oh my God, she's gone." I mean, it could be with anybody, any precious person to you. Uh, but the important thing I would again say to Madhulika is that, does you carrying on with your life, adding new elements to it, mean that you are not respecting or mourning the loss? Not at all. They're not mutually exclusive, is what we have to totally understand. First for ourselves, and only then will we not be looking at ourselves through the eyes of, how am I looking to X person? What is she making of my going on vacation? Is this too soon? All of that is, you know, you kind of can can absolve yourself of all of that. If you know from inside that my grief is genuine, but it is not tied to what next step I'm going to take. It's not tied to that. So your grief cannot be a ball and chain on your foot. That's what I'm trying to say here, you know. Uh, and I thought her getting down to paperwork, planning travels, and all of those other things is commendable, and it is the way forward. Sometimes the mundane tasks required of you after a spouse has passed away, the mundanities of everyday life, are as therapeutic as any counselor, or as any spiritual discourse. Just engaging with what in Marathi we call eka paula samor paw, just putting one foot in front of the other and negotiating the day for what needs to be done. You know, down to somebody I know has kept his phone active for a while because the investments and all of that stuff, OTPs come to his number, and from there she has to send that OTP. And uh, you know, she said in the beginning, part of her thing was, he's gone and this is it, and I have to delete and, you know, empty out this phone and just gift it to some poor person. And there's there and then she found that there is a reason why she's now moving around with her phone and his phone. It is not an empty sentimentality. It is just practical mundanities that are dictating that she does this. And I am a great believer in the therapeutic things of the mundane, you know, the minutiae of life, the therapeutic quality of that. Uh, so so finally, what I would like to say is, how much, meaning in what quantum and what quality you move on, is highly subjective and completely up to you. And it's important to avoid people who are um, watching you too closely, or being judgmental under the thing of being extremely solicitous and helpful, or who want to give you advice at once, immediately assuming that you're in a vulnerable place. I've fallen down and I've got my hand out. Not necessarily so. Um, and one last thing, you have the right to express your grief, and you also have the right not to share it. Both are totally your individual rights. Uh, one more thing I would tell Madhulika or anybody in a position is that try not to sort all of it only in your head and in your heart, not just in here. Some things need physical manifestations, like I was saying about, the mundane everyday things, but physical manifestations like an eye on your food intake, your exercise levels, your sleep, and your if there is some clearing up and paperwork involved. So, or if there's a change of space involved, if you're going to sell off your property, move somewhere else, move with a child, whatever it is, it's important to have outside realities which are pulling you into helping you process, and not just all abstractions in your head. You know, I like to give this example of sometimes we sometimes we are trying to sort something, and you end up being like a person who's sitting in a bucket of water and trying to pick up the bucket. It will not move because you're inside the bucket. The minute you step out of it and put the same force, that bucket can be moved. And I think grieving is one of those things where once in a while, of course, you'll be first in the bucket. That's when you're in full denial that anything has happened, which can which this kind of thing has happened. But to be able to step out, and part of this stepping out is these physical manifestations, I think, which you bring into your life. Get up, exercise, eat, bathe, take out your wardrobe, clean up stuff, decide what to give away, look at old photos, all of that stuff. So with this, after this, let's have a chat about this, but I want to give you all a small little writing exercise also. But before the writing exercise, anyone wants to share anything, any experience, any insight about this very subject? Sorry, camera is wobbling. Sorry, my camera is wobbling. Yeah. Would anybody like to share something? Tell me, anybody here has had this conversation with their spouse or their anyone, caregivers, child? Anybody had a conversation about when I'm alone? Have you had occasion to have this conversation? If I go first or you go first. Yeah, Sangeeta, are you saying something? No, I thought you were saying something. Yeah.
No,
Deepa.
I'm not. I was not saying anything, but I would like to say that though I didn't have that, but I've heard people saying that after one of them goes, the other one should not grieve, keep grieving and be on their own. And I know of one lady,
Huh.
they had planned in such a way that all the three sons were very well placed, and they would have looked after them very well. But the husband had told the wife, or even the wife to the husband, that they will be on their own. So she had stayed in one sanatorium in Bangalore, Nightingale. And she was there for about 4 or 5 years, though the children were not in favor of it. But the husband and wife had planned it that way.
Correct. To have a sort of small innings where you are on your own, you managing on your own, you're not immediately become dependent on your children, and to live life on new terms. Good. Yeah. Deepali, you were saying something. I think you had unmuted.
Yeah. I had my
No, something happened to.
I think you've gone back on mute
yeah,
by mistake,
That's
Dipal. Sorry.
I've got yeah. So my sister-in-law is in her mid to late 80s, and she lost her husband maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And one of the things he told her was, "Don't leave the house." So although she has 3 children, two in Gurgaon, one in Jaipur, and she lives in Jaipur, she will not move from there.
Meaning, don't remain.
So the son in Jaipur, I mean, all the kids keep coming.
But
Yeah.
She won't leave and travel.
It was, I mean, I don't want to leave the house, I mean, permanently, but the son in Jaipur has to keep coming and going with her, but then their medicines. Sometimes it can also be very difficult for the children of the survivors if the survivor is not fit enough and young enough to take care of themselves.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes that conversation is taken to an extreme length where and yet she's happy pottering around in her own house with her helper and with the son and daughter-in-law coming and the other kids coming as and when they can. And yet, from a distance, it seems like a mess.
And hard on the children.
And I think there will be unresolved property issues. Hard on the children, definitely, especially on the one who is local. So, and otherwise, what conversation we've had is that neither of us wants, any prolonged interventions of life extending if there is no prognosis of that. Is something our children know, both of us know. Both of us are very clear about that. But beyond that, we haven't spoken, although we have made our wills. We have made our wills, and we, so, yeah.
I think the app is going to have at some stage a conversation with lawyers about wills and living wills. Not me, but with an expert who's going to talk about wills, making wills and living wills.
Yeah.
So that will be interesting thing, part of it. It's very interesting how people are so, there is a bunch of people who are so unwilling to talk about deaths at all. And those who are...
In fact, one of the hardest things, the hardest thing perhaps one of the hardest things I've done in my life was asking my father to make his will.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, he was already infirm, he was not too well, but it was also something which had to be done. So it's like you screw up all your courage and you say, Daddy, well, I think this has to be done.
And was he...
So I didn't want my children to go through that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I said, okay.
Yeah.
How are we going to do it? We are all mortal. We have to go one day or the other. So might as well do some tayari.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So I was thinking, should we do a small writing exercise, which isn't directly related to this subject, but just a scribble exercise, if people are open to the idea, which is to write down, I'm saying, and I'll put it on the chat also, where you think of one of the things that drew you to your spouse or your partner or your sibling, whoever you are closely associated with and living with, maybe. Or, in early, maybe the person is not there now, but was there, or it still exists. But think of one of the things that drew you to another person, that built your bond with anyone you are close to. I'll put this on the chat. Write down those things, write down that one thing as if you are addressing that person. Okay, so I'm going to, just a sentence addressed to the person. I'm going to read out some examples. So it says, one says, I really liked it when you read your poems and articles to me. Okay, Sangeeta. See you next Friday then. Yeah, bye. So one of the examples is, I really liked it when you read your poems and articles to me. Then another one says, I love to see you getting ready for your work. I loved, in the past tense. At the hotel, you used to be always clean shaven, ironed clothes, shining shoes. Then one says, I loved watching you mend things effortlessly. Which is, I'm saying, if we can come up with one thing which you want to say to that person, with absolutely no no aga picha to it. It's not like you say it to the person, then that person feels, oh gosh, are you upset with me because I don't do it anymore? Nothing, nothing. You articulate it, and if you want, it's your choice to say to the person is, I suddenly remembered this and I wanted to tell you that I used to like this. A mother has written about her grown daughter. I really enjoy it when you get some surprise pastries for our tea when you visit. Something as small as that. Then one woman has written, I appreciated when you shared about the mistakes and silly things you did at work with us. This is to her father. You know, it sort of humanized him where he comes home and says, Arey, I screwed up this way, I screwed up that. So she remembers that and likes that. So as an exercise, if you'd like to just scribble, you can put it up here, or you can read it out here. I'm just looking how to put it on the chat. Yeah. Let it sit there so that anybody else who later sees this can wait, I don't know why I'm not able to put anything in this chat. Huh. Okay. Oh, has this gone just to the host? Can Dipali, can you see this?
No, even I haven't gotten it.
Okay. It's gone as a direct message. Wait, now let me try.
Yeah. Oh no,
No? 1 second.
it's actually a message.
Can you put some, you had put something, no?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, here Dipali's posted hers. Okay, yeah.
So because we also don't have many participants today, Gauri, maybe we could just use that as a point of discussion what Dipali has shared,
Yes.
and 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 yeah, we can
Yeah,
also then maybe
and which I just feel that it's exactly what Dipali has written, exactly the kind of things which one does not get down to communicating to, especially in older marriages, in older relationships, where you feel maybe silly to say it, or it's known, the person knows it, but who doesn't like to hear it again? Who doesn't like to hear something like this? Who's this? Who's put it? Shag, this one?
I I'm not sure because her name is not showing. It's a
Okay.
device
Yeah.
name, so
Never mind. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm just still trying to figure why my message is not going. Though people have got what I was saying, but why it's
Yeah.
not going to people? Huh. New messages. Everybody is able to put a thing, right? In message in. Others have been able to put a message through.
Yes. It's okay. Your what you had mentioned has at least been verbally captured.
Yeah. No,
So
only I was just for future reference, because I am going to try and have some little writing scribble exercise, and I want to not I want to iron this out. But yeah, if you want, we can stop here. Anyone has anything else to add? Dipali, you want to say anything? There is a message from Gitali that she can't participate, but she's paying attention. I think she's at work and is listening. Yeah.
maybe she's looking watching it on YouTube because she's currently not in the Zoom
Not
room.
on this thing. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, then should we stop here? Let me just quickly read the theme for the next thing. It's just Dipali here, but still.
Yeah.
I'm just reading the theme, which is about the letter that has come. I'll read that day, but it's about expecting grown children to be our marriage counselors. Is it fair and is it a really good source for seniors to tackle their interpersonal problems via their children? That's going to be our theme. I mean, yes, it's the theme for next time. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. Okay.
Just before we depart, Gauri, I'm not sure the person with Samsung SM ha says just one thing. I don't know if she has something to add.
Yes.
Ma'am, if you can hear us, I'm going to ask you to.
Yes. Please do add what you want to say. Or you can unmute and talk if you like.
Yeah, I have prompted her for that.
Okay. This is Sucheta. Okay. Huh. Yes.
Okay, so I think
You tell us
it
what you want.
wasn't
Yeah.
possibly anything else. So,
No, about the grieving. See, she wants to say something.
okay.
We have time, no? We have 10 minutes, I think, 5-10 minutes more. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. This is what we were saying, that it is so particular to each person. It is very personal. It tends to get hijacked when there is a death and there are well-wishers around. It sometimes your personal thing is hijacked. Yeah, I'm completely no business of others. Yes. And as from the other end of the tunnel, if you want to be around somebody who's processing death, grieving, so important to just find that right sur where you say, I'm there. You can, talk whatever you want, but I'm not watching you. I'm not watching you and I'm not debriefing you about how you felt, how's it is, what's happening, money. This under the cover of concern, people can be, extremely the word is escaping me. Just climbing into your things uh, too closely. So, yeah. Okay. Yes. Chabi lagawing. It's calling it chabi lagawing. Yes. Yeah. Correct. Just before I go, I had a very lovely quote. I'll quickly read it out from somebody called, one second, from somebody called Jan Glidewell. It says you can clutch the past so tightly to your chest that it leaves your arms too full to embrace the present. So this is it's a broadly ishara about, and yet how tightly you're clutching, how much you open your arms for the present is all still a very personal space. That it needs to be done, yes, is accepted all around. That it needs to be done. That everybody has to, people get very upset with the word move on because for some reason, it comes across as if you're hard jatak ke moving on. That's not at all that, And once you make your peace with that yourself, then, the kind of question Madhulika brought up where I don't know where I stand with this. How should I come across to people? Doesn't come up. Then you're very comfortable in your own pace. And as I said, the quantum and the quality of grieving. Okay. Shak, should
I
we?
Okay.
have one
Yes.
little.
Go
Can I say something?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, a friend of mine lost her husband many years ago, and her parents lived in another city, and I was there with her that night and stayed. And when her father entered the room, what he said made so much sense to all of us. Jeena to padega. Jeena to padega, na? You have to live your life. It's your life.
Yeah.
Nobody else can live it for you.
Yeah.
So
Correct.
you have to live, and you have to live on your own terms.
Yeah.
However long it takes.
Yes. And it's good sometimes to hear it from a clear
A
well-wisher.
wise elder,
Yeah.
an elder, somebody who's has your back, who is there for you,
Yes.
and who says,
And who's almost
Jeena to
giving
padega.
permission to, come out of that well. Almost giving it
Yes.
kind of, right?
Yeah, it's giving you a blessing that this is the next stage of life. Go live your life.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Thank you, Deepali.
Thank you, Gauri. Good to chat.
Nice to talk. Yeah. So we'll meet next Friday again, and
Yeah.
it'll be we will be looking at this thing of using your children unwittingly, using your children as your relationship coach.
Sometimes you just want catharsis. You just want to say, that old man is driving me mad with blah, 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 blah. And you don't want them
Correct,
to do
correct. And
anything
your
bad.
children know exactly what that old man is about. So it's very
Yes.
yeah. No, mouthing off is okay, but for children to intervene, I'll read the letter to next time.
Yeah, sure.
It's very hijacked kind of by having to sort that out all the time.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
Bye, Sucheta.
Bye-bye.
See you. Yeah. Bye, Shaq.
Bye. Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.
And yeah, we'll see you on the next